evening. We bring you the latest in the world of sports. I'm Paulo Del Rosario.
We give you the conversations you want to hear from your favorite icons and athletes. I'm Zihir Basho. In tonight's Game Plan, we'll talk about the first win of Team Philippines and the firepower of its stars in the 2022 ABC Women's Cup.
We'll also break out the Willy Wishlist for the ongoing PBA Philippine Cup finals between the San Miguel Beermen and the TNT Tropang Giga. And we'll take a look at what happened in the NBA Cares event that was held in partnership with the Gawad Kalinga Foundation. Buckle up, sports fans. Let's get in the game.
The Philippines finally takes its first win in the 2022 ABC Women's Cup at the expense of Iran. Joining us today to talk more about our national team is volleyball analyst Ish Polvorosa. Ish, good evening and welcome to the game.
Hi Z, hi Pao, good evening.
All right, Ish, thank you very much for coming back on. Pinag-usapan natin yung Philippine-Iran game before it actually happened, everything that we wish would happen. Sort of did. And when we look at what we saw, I think it's fair to say that we should focus on a couple of Philippine players first here. Si Tots at si Jema. The big question is, well, at least for myself, are we seeing the peak of their powers at the moment-ish?
Well, if we're talking about the peak of Tots, Carlos, and Jema Galanza, I don't think they're there yet. But the performances of Tots and Jema have been spectacular in the last few games, especially in that game against China and Iran. We saw how they can play toe-to-toe against these caliber players from, the top-seeded teams in Asia. Jema Galanza and Tots Carlos, their defensive plays have improved in this tournament. Pero makikita natin na may improvement pa. Feeling ko makikita, especially with Tots Carlos. When it comes to her offensive side, makikita natin kasi medyo hindi pa siya sanay pagbalik sa open hitter position kasi originally with Creamline, she's the opposite of that squad. And of course, this time around, she's playing as an open spiker. So may onting adjustment pa. But when it comes to Jema Galanza, offense and defense, maganda pinapakita niya in this tournament so far.
That's right, Ish. I agree. Kasi I remember it's not just them, Tots and Jema, but the team's overall performance, which has been getting better and better as they play games here in the ABC Cup. And again, si Jema, game number 1, highest pointer. Game number 2, it was Tots. Then earlier, game number 3 versus Iran, 21 big points in a 4-setter match. So talagang a lot of exciting things definitely happening for the team and for these two. Especially, a lot of points have been made. But it's interesting how I was telling Eric, my partner last night, how, these two girls have been blocked so many times, but still producing so much in terms of attacks.
Yeah, that's true. And actually, I want to bring this now to Ish, kasi Ish, we talk about these girls a lot, and based on what you've seen so far, it looks like they've bedded into international competition. We're going up against a South Korea team that expectations are that we are going to at least be favored going into this matchup in particular. Do our expectations rise as well for these two girls in particular when they go up against South Korea?
Well, the South Korean team is very young. All of them, literally all of them, fresh from high school. So ito ang kalaban natin tonight. Medyo may upper hand tayo, being the number 1 club team in the Philippines representing our country. I think that's one of the biggest advantages that we have as the host country for this year's ABC Cup. Talagang yung chemistry and yung gelling nila inside the court, it's already there. And it's showing that it's the advantage that our country needs for this tournament. And nakikita natin yung pagpasok ni Gia Morado de Guzman after that Vietnam game. Of course, makikita natin napakalaking difference kasi talagang gamay na gamay niya si Tots Carlos, si Jema Galanza, si Michelle Gumabaw. And of course, sabi ko kanina, medyo may ibubuga pa to si Jema Galanza and si Tots Carlos kasi hindi pa masyado na-incorporate yung ibang attacks nila like the back row attacks which are powerful especially from Tots Carlos and from Jema Galanza. And I'm sure in time, as the tournament progresses, the team will finally incorporate these types of attacks. And as you can see now, they're already playing right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're leading 6-3 in the first set against South Korea. So we are heavily favored against a very young team, South Korean squad. And I'm sure if we win today, we're gonna be ranked number 3 and we'll play Thailand in the quarterfinals.
Okay, for all the fans out there, I know you all want to watch Ish's screen right now just to
Yes.
watch what's happening right behind him. Pero let's focus more on a bit on the finer details here. We want to talk about someone in particular here.
Yes, we already mentioned Tots, Jema, you mentioned Gia, and another athlete who has been stepping up is Kyla Atienza. Can you tell us more about her, Ish?
Yeah, Kyla Atienza, of course, the unsung hero of this Philippine squad, digging a lot of balls. But yung mga hindi natin napapansin, yung mga smaller details, yung reception, she has manned the reception of the Team Philippines in this tournament so far. Very steady, very consistent. And of course, with the help of Jema Galanza, of course, one of the top receivers and top diggers of the previous PVL conference, malaking tulong at nakikita natin yung napag-trainingan nila under Coach Sherwin. And the defensive side of Team Philippines, it's showing na dun talaga promising yung Team Philippines in this tournament. Marami tayong digs and attempts in this tournament. And of course, with power hitters like Michelle Gumabao and Tots Carlos, it's really helpful that we have that kind of defensive advantage in this tournament.
I know I'm asking you to multitask here, Ish, pero when you look at this game in particular, Philippines versus South Korea, there are, siguro, because it's such a short tournament in the sense that the turnaround's always quick when it comes to these types of meets, how do you feel the Philippines has been adjusting to the different competition, to the progression of the games? At syempre, each game has its own stake when the Philippines does play.
Well, they've adjusted really well in this tournament. Every day na sila naglalaro, Z and
Yes.
Pao, mapapansin natin, napakalaking tulong na talagang yung pinadala natin in this AVC Cup, yung team na talagang matagal na magkakasama. Like, they only had a few weeks or a few days of preparation coming to this tournament, pero it hasn't showed, the rustiness and of course yung kawalan ng chemistry inside the court. Napakalaking tulong kasi they're very familiar with each other already. And of course, a lot of them have already played internationally, talking about Michelle Gumabao, Gia Morado de Guzman, and of course, Tots Carlos have played against Thailand and Japan already no exhibition games in the last 2 months. So malaking tulong na they are here to represent our country, and of course, the crowd has helped our squad tremendously in this tournament. So,
all right, lastly, Ish, I want to ask, I know if we win tonight's match, we get a ticket to the quarterfinals. But what do you think this win will mean for Team Philippines and for the rest of the country?
well, it's gonna be the first time that we're gonna win against South Korea. Indoor volleyball. We're talking about indoor volleyball women's tournament. Kahit anong tournament, we've never won against South Korea. And of course, Iran as well, but we've already managed to win a game against them.
Yep.
And without our star players inside the court playing,
You're
diba? Only Gia Morado de Guzman is one of the top setters and top players in the whole Philippines that's inside the court playing for Team Philippines. So that's quite an achievement already. So kapag magpapadala tayo next time ng mga teams internationally, we know that we can go up against them na meron tayong quality plays na mapapakita and hindi tayo basta-basta magpapatalo when it comes to playing against these caliber teams.
Ish, maraming salamat. We really appreciate your time. And I think you're going to enjoy this next part I'm going to say. To all the volleyball fans out there who are lost right now and looking for the game, this is not it, all right? You can catch the ongoing match between the Philippines and South Korea on One Sports Plus, Signal Play, and Smart Giga Play. And I'm sure you're on your way there right now. Maraming salamat, Ish.
Thank you, Z. Thank you, Pao.
Okay, so we'll move on over to the hard court because when we return, we got a brand new edition of the Willy Wishlist right after Game 2 of the PBA Philippine Cup Finals. Stay tuned. You're watching The Game. to game. We are hours away from seeing Gilas Pilipinas back in action, and the Samaang Basketball ng Pilipinas have announced the final 12-man roster against Lebanon. Leading the national squad will be NBA star, Utah Jazz star, Jordan Clarkson, and the 7'3" Kai Sotto. Providing solid support around them are PBA stars, Japeth Aguilar, Chris Newsom, Scotty Thompson, Jamie Malonzo, and Calvin Oftana. Completing the final lineup are Gilas returnees, 30 and Kiefer Ravena, Dwight Ramos, Bobby Ray Parks, and Carl Tamayo. Roosevelt Adams misses the cut. From a current 2-2 record in the Asian qualifiers, Gilas Pilipinas will look to go all out against Lebanon tomorrow at 2 a.m. Drink your coffee, folks. 2 a.m. Philippine time. After that, Gilas will return home to host Saudi Arabia at the SM Mall of Asia Arena on August 29. You can catch the games live on One Sports, One Sports Plus, Signal Play, and Smart Media Play.
And from FIBA Hoops, we shift over to the PBA Philippine Cup Finals. The San Miguel Beermen have tied the series 1-1. Now, as we look ahead to Game 3, it's time for a new edition of the Willy Wishlist.
Every time I see that photo,
I
I
love
feel
it.
like Coach Willy is going to the beach. It looks like a top you only wear.
You don't know what the list is about.
Oh, it's probably never anything that good and just such and fixed for TV. Again, joining us is PBA champion basketball analyst Coach Willy Wilson. Coach Willy, I don't know if you gave us that photo, but thank you.
We're loving it.
We're loving
It's
it.
the gift that keeps on giving.
Absolutely.
All right, Coach Willy, let's get to it. Brief reaction. Game 2, did you expect SMB to bounce back hard in Game 2?
I definitely did. Okay, this
Yeah.
is a championship team.
Right.
They still have the core of the championship team, championship coach, champion coach. So, you know, the chess match that we saw in the semis with them in Morocco, it's continuing. You know, they give here, take there. It's going to be a seesaw battle throughout this whole series.
One of the biggest issues that had a lot of TNT fans concerned was the early injury knock to Mikey Williams. He was hurt early in the first half with a collision with Simon Enciso. Obviously, no real intent there. But then he didn't look right. Only finished with 7 points, Mikey Williams, but played 30 minutes. He did not play the other half, the latter half of the fourth quarter for TNT.
Okay, so when you look at the way Mikey Williams plays, his game is predicated on quickness, okay? And a lot of his shots are coming off, going to the right side. The injured part of his leg was the left ankle, so a lot of his shots are stepping to the right. Now, if you don't have that push on your left ankle, you know, you're really not going to be that effective. And that made San Miguel's job that much easier for him not having that explosiveness to get to his right hand, step to the side, patented three-point jump shot.
All right, Mikey only scored 3 field goals, and wish list number 1 is to have a healthy Mikey Williams. Let's head over to your number 2 on the list. Junmar Fajardo continues his facilitator role.
Okay. Junmar has only missed 2 shots
Wow.
combined in game 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So we know that Junmar will score the basketball. We do know that traditionally San Miguel wants to run their offense through Junmar. But with Junmar in game 2 playing the decoy role, setting the screen, rolling to the basket, he has so much gravitational pull that wherever he is, the defense is always swarming around him, which allowed him to be the facilitator, get his teammates involved. He was second on the team in assists with 4, so that's huge.
You know, you look at Junmar Fajardo, how impressed should we be by the depth of this San Miguel team? Knowing that he just threw a skip pass. We just showed that highlight. A skip pass from one end of the court to the other to a wide open Jericho Cruz. It feels like all he needs to do is just find guys, and he can get the job done in terms of making sure the offense comes from San Miguel.
Yeah, he's been doing it since he stepped into the PBA. Again, he is 6'10", so him being able to see over the defense, literally
Right.
and figuratively, makes those passes so easy for him.
That's right, and there you have it. The playmaker, Junmar Fajardo, making 24 points in Game 1 and 13 points in Game 2.
Yeah.
Let's go to your third wish list. TNT needs a third offensive spark. So Who might this be, Coach Willy?
I'm looking at Troy Rosario.
Okay.
Troy
Okay.
Rosario, subpar offensive game in game 1. Kind of picked it up in game 2, but was still inefficient. I think his field goal percentage was around 35, 36%. 3 for 10 from the three-point line. This is a team that lives and dies off of the three-point shot. If we don't have a healthy Mikey Williams, who was stellar in game 1, we know that Pogoy was awesome in game 1 and 2.
Yep.
And then Jason Castro is doing his usual things offensively. They need that third guy to pick up the offensive slack.
For Troy Rosario, not necessarily there offensively as well. I've heard some people even mention Boy Aram also as a possible guy to be able to step up. But then talking about guys who are stepping up, we go on to the last point that you have here from San Miguel Beermen. And it's more of a continuation for Coach Willy. According to him, he wishes that the SMB bench mob continues to contribute. They were big in game number 2. You
Yeah.
felt that they weren't there in game number 1. Only 3 guys finished in double digits for San Miguel in game number 1. In game number 2, 6 guys finished in double digits with Vic Manuel playing his best game with the San Miguel Beermen so far.
Well, this is a continued trend again from the semis. As you see, whenever you get contributions from Vic Manuel and Jericho Cruz, San Miguel pretty much is a lock to win the game. And this was true in the semis, and it's going to be true in the finals.
You know, you saw, we even see guys like Motao Tua there right on your screen, being able to give highlights and Vic Manuel driving in. When you have guys who are just free to play because so much attention's directed towards Junmar, what adjustments do you feel that TNT need to do to make sure that the bench kind of quiets down now here?
Well, initially, that was the game plan for Talking Tex. Stop everybody else and let Junmar do his thing. But that's hard to do when San Miguel is getting stops on defense, getting out in transition. You know how difficult it is to stop CJ Perez, and then you have a lot of ball handlers on that team, guys that can make plays with the ball in their hands. So it's definitely easier said than done. Theoretically, it's great.
Theoretically.
All right, I think that's it for tonight, Coach Wills. Let's see if the wish list continues.
His wishes
and will
normally
be
come
granted.
true. No, it needs to, because we need to see that photo over and over again.
Yes,
Coach
looking
Willy.
forward to that.
Oh my God. Yep.
Thank you very much. Now let's take a step back, because when we return, we'll get a glimpse of the NBA Cares event held in the GK Enchanted Farm Village. Stay tuned. You're watching The Game.
Welcome back. You're watching the game. The NBA Cares is back in the Philippines. The Gawad Kalinga Enchanted Farm Village was a beneficiary of the first NBA Cares court in the country. The game sat down with Coach Carlos Baroca, Mr. Luis Oquiñena, and NBA player Herb Jones for this event. Let's watch this. In one of its first efforts since the pandemic, NBA Cares is back in the Philippines. We are now at the GK Enchanted Farm Village, where an NBA Cares donated a court here for the community and brought in an NBA player just to make sure the community feels welcome. Joining me now is Coach Carlos Baroca. Coach, you have been part of the NBA for quite some time, especially helping out with the youth. I saw your work online, but how great is it to actually be out here face to face with kids who haven't really had this opportunity in such a long time?
Well, if they are missing action like I'm missing action, I think they are very happy, because I cannot express how big is my smile inside of my heart right now. It's like Philippines is always a place that inspires me because the love of the game. So me have the opportunity of be here and give it back, it's like really made my day. We feel that we give back to a country that loves what we do. So putting the kids playing basketball face to face with me today and have them get enthusiastic, communicate with each other, and learn some life skills, because this is not just about the skills of basketball, it's about life skills, just make me, like I said before, smile.
Well, una, malaking bagay sa bata sa isang komunidad na talagang maramdaman, maamoy, mahawakan yung NBA na sa TV lang nila nakikita. That means that nothing is impossible. No? So, yung pangarap naman ng GK, tapusin din yung kahirapan. So, hindi rin imposible matapos natin yung kahirapan.
Joining me now here at the GK Enchanted Farm Village in Bulacan, Herb Jones of the New Orleans Pelicans. Thank you very much for being here. I know it's been quite the trip here. It was even a journey for us as well. With your experience, you mentioned when you were younger, you played on dirt courts. You answered that a while ago. But of course, what does it mean to you that you're now part of the group providing better courts for younger kids?
It means the world to me. Any chance I get to give back to the up and coming generation, I try to take advantage of that.
If I'm not mistaken, high school in Alabama, college in Alabama, then all of a sudden you're traveling all over the place for the NBA, and you find yourself in the Philippines just a couple of years after your experiences in Alabama. Just how surreal is it that you're living this type of life and reaching out to places that I'm sure you never thought you'd visit?
It's still surreal to me. Like you said, growing up in Alabama, it was super simple. Like when I arrived, I couldn't believe how big the city of Manila was. There's so many people.
We're going to focus now on what your life is like in the NBA, especially with the Pelicans, because obviously the Pelicans were quite the story last season. And when you talk about your experience last year, could you wrap it up in a few words?
The only word that sticks out, and they say it a lot in New Orleans, is resiliency. Starting out the year, we got off to a bad start. It was a new system. People had to kind of figure out their roles. And once we got our roles identified and guys start buying into what their roles were, I feel like that's when the change started to happen.
I'm sure you know that in the Philippines, we all love a guy named Jordan Clarkson because, he carries our heritage. And I just want to know,
how is it actually seeing him on the floor defending him? Because he's a guy who shoots. He's a guy who shoots the lights out.
Yeah, he's a tough cover for sure. Great player, can score from all three levels. And he has a ton of moves. So I just try to go out and be disciplined when I'm guarding him, try not to foul and make it super tough on him, make him shoot over there.
Another Filipino out there, Jalen Green, a batchmate if I'm not mistaken in terms of your rookie class. What you got to say about him?
Almost the same. He has a ton of moves. And a good friend of mine, I reached out to him before I came out here. I mean, he's quick as a cat and has like super bounce. So, and he can shoot it really well. So him and Jordan Clarkson are two really tough covers. I'm super thankful for all of the love and support from the Filipino fans. I hope you guys continue to support the NBA. And I hope we get a ton of Pelicans fans in the future.
NBA Cares will be back in the Philippines for more projects in the future, but for the meantime, this community could enjoy a Discord provided by the NBA. From Angat, Bulacan, Paulo De Rosario for One Sports.
Well, it's been an exciting week of sports, but that's it for tonight. Thank you for joining us. I'm Zihir Baco.
And we're not done yet. So much more sports is still on tap. I'm Paulo De Rosario, and this has been The Game.